Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome in. 17 and some change. I am EcuDes17 here to give you my 2 cents on this Wednesday, on this hump day. I was previously recording for a few minutes. I had to stop it because I said something that I didn't want out in the world. But right now, so we're going to talk about my dental escapades. Last week, we talked about. Um, our official policy position on immigration. Today, we're going to talk about our official policy position on voting. But before any of that can happen, come on, go, yes, yes. All right, so there was a freaking bumblebee the size of a freaking bologna sandwich in my house. I don't know how he got in here, how he or she got in here. This thing was humongous, humongous, and it was big mad that it was stuck in here, and it was and I didn't know what I was gonna do. I opened the window a little bit. It seemed to be struggling. I was like fudge cracker, you know. That shit was like this big or something. And but he's gone now, thankfully. I hope it tells all its friends that I am a good individual and leave me alone and stuff. So my teeth were hurting recently. So I had to go to the dentist. I was in a lot of pain. It was like one of those situations where you're kind of throwing your hands up to the sky and why oh why, every few months, like I'll get a lot of pain in the teeth and stuff like that. One of the things that they recommended was for me to they wanted to do a deep cleaning, and then they wanted antibiotics for the bacteria. um Luckily, my teeth aren't like terrible yet. Like, uh, they're still salvageable and stuff like that. But there's a few things going on. I mentioned that specifically because I think one of the contributing factors, besides the fact that I haven't been to the dentist in the past 20 years, and you should really go like twice a year to get cleanings and checkups and stuff like that. Besides from the fact that I took like a freaking 10-year break from brushing my teeth in my freaking not completely, like I would brush like every once in a blue moon, but like in my teens and most of my 20s, I really didn't like pay attention to that. Like I said, once in a blue moon I'd brush my teeth. um Over the past few years, I've really gotten a lot better at going like at least once a day, if not twice a day, doing the flossing and different stuff like that. But in addition to that, another reason that um, I believe that I got into the situation that I'm in regards to the infection, or however or however you want to call it, um, is uh, believe it or not, marijuana. Right. So marijuana, when you smoke it, you get you guys, anybody who smoked, anybody who's been around smokers, actually most people in general know that when you smoke, you get something called cotton mouth. You know what I'm saying? And if you're getting cotton mouth for hours a day or multiple times a day for years and years, when your mouth is dry, you're not getting the saliva necessary to fight off. This is when infections can really attack. They can really settle in and they can attack and grow and do their do. Um, so be careful with that, all you smokers. That's just like another reason to potentially consider going to another form of THC or eliminating it altogether. Um, I went to this Aspen dental place and I set an appointment for them and I went there and I'm gonna see a few more places, you know what I mean? But it's the reviews were funny. They're talking about how Aspen Dental is kind of like a what they call it the McDonald's of dentistry, where it's kind of like a conveyor belt, like uh, just a very corporate, very standardized type thing. And there's complaints about them like upselling and trying to get you for stuff that you don't need and stuff like that. So I'm gonna check it out. They told me they wanted to um after getting everything checked out. They told me four wisdom teeth they wanted to extract. They wanted to do four fillings for cavities. They wanted to do the deep cleaning and some antibiotic treatment. And then they wanted to do like a retainer. I was like, okay, so that's their treatment plan. And um I'm curious. I want y'all to kind of guess like how much they said that would cost, out of pocket, since they didn't accept either one of my insurances. Um, but yeah, just kind of a second to think about that to get a number in your head. They wanted 10,900 dollars for that treatment plan. I'm like, yo, that's the cost of a car. Like you could buy a fucking Lexus for that much money. Um, it's just insane. Like that's just absolutely insane. Um, so it's smart to kind of shop around. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shop around. I'm gonna get different opinions, and I'm gonna see like what we can do as far as like the bare minimum, so to speak. You know what I mean? Um, that is something that you know you want to avoid as much as you can. You want to use it to your advantage when you can. But consumer debt and medical debt, you want to avoid as much of it as possible. It's a shame, kind of. Um, and when we talk about like our healthcare policies and stuff like that, it's really a shame that you can fall into um, medical debt in this country. It's a shame that you can uh, owe thousands of dollars for procedures and stuff like that. I really don't like that at all. You know, we all live in this body that's continuously deteriorating, right? I mean, it's an amazing thing because it's simultaneously healing and regenerating itself while it's deteriorating at the same time. So there's two things going on there, but um it's just a shame, especially like when one thing starts to go and then another thing starts to go and then another thing that starts to go, your knees, your tummy, your this, your nose, your face, your whatever, teeth and fucking toes, whatever it is, you know what I mean? And it's just a shame that this you can make all the right decisions and still be drowning in medical debt, and if these debts come before you've been able to, build wealth, um it's just a smack in the face, you know what I mean? It's just it's crap, it sucks. So when we talk about our healthcare positions, we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. But like I said earlier, um, today I want to talk more about well, I mean today next on the list of policies is voting. So we're going to talk about our stance on voting. Um, and so I'll kind of kick that off about 15 seconds or so. Um, Voting and election administration. So it says um, ordinary voting should happen in person on election day. Okay, so a few bullet points later, I have a little spot where a caveat for mail ins, like under my ideal, mail ins still do exist. But like I said, ordinary voting should happen in person on election day. Okay. Um, So, mail in ballots should be limited to medical necessity and other extraordinary circumstances. So, mail in ballots should not be a thing just to be a thing. We should not be doing mail in ballots just for the hell of it, just for the fun of it. This should be something that we go to in person. Um, there's no it's a lot harder to verify in the mail. Mail can be stolen, especially when we're talking about, such high stakes things. There's always that thing on the internet. Like, if you trust the mail system so much, send $500 to yourself in the mail. I mean, more times than not, it's going to show up. But when you have millions of people sending in ballots, it's it adds another layer to how things could go wrong. You know what I mean? Um, so in person should be the norm. In person should be the standard. Also, election day should mean election day, not election week or election month. Um, we don't want to see situations where, votes are still being counted and tallied and considered, days later. Um, we should know by that night. We should know by the end of that day, that night, who the winner is. Okay. Um, Some places are really good at it. Florida is really good at it. They always have their tallies. Some places are not so good at it, like Pennsylvania, right? So we want to get to a point where, because it's kind of outside of uh, outside of like the logistics of it all. It's it it's a cool event to kind of sit back and watch, and like it's almost like a sporting event, when you're the way that we do it now. And no, it should end that night, and everybody should know. You know. Furthermore, election day should be a federal holiday. This ensures that um, people can have the people that most people that need to vote can have the day off. Um, Federal holiday meaning like Christmas, like Thanksgiving, not like Halloween, but like Christmas, Thanksgiving, like a real day off where most things are closed, and people get to use that opportunity to go out and vote. Um, Polling places should also remain open for extended hours, which kind of piggybacks off of the last point. Um, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, they stay open. I mean, you do want a definitive close time so you could get these votes tallied, especially since we want to have um, the results in by that day. So maybe uh, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, type of thing. All votes should be counted on election day, which kind of goes into the first, which matches the first point, or the second point. Um, Mail-in ballots should be limited to medical necessity and other extraordinary circumstances. So if you're serving in the military, or if you can't, if you're handicapped, if you're um, limited in mobility, if you're in poverty, you don't have a vehicle, and there's no voting place within miles away from you, these types of things. There should be considerations for different types of things of this nature, but it definitely, once again, it definitely should not be the norm. It should not be encouraged. Like, it should not be pushed. It should not be advertised like this is the way to do it. It should be considered an emergency alternative at the most, not a convenient alternative, not an equal alternative. No, it's an emergency alternative. Um, and you know, all of this is prefaced by the assumption that we remain in a uh, in a paper system as opposed to like a digital system, right? Where you could have I don't want everything to go digital. Okay, I really don't want everything to go digital. I think we've gotten digital enough. We don't need to become like one of these sci-fi countries, societies where everything you do is digital. At my place of work, they just, at least for the nurses, they did away with uh, uh, what do you paper like profiles and stuff like that. So they've gone to everything digital and stuff, and I don't really like that. I don't think everything should go digital, but we might run into a world someday if things keep going in this direction. Though I do feel some pushback against the digitalization of the country, but there is a hypothetical world that exists where voting could be done digitally. Um, you sign up for an account, you get a two-factor authentication. Um, including maybe like a face ID and like a text message and like all these different things. Um, that's plausible. You can see where things could go wrong there as far as hackers and different stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of elections are high stakes, right? There's a lot of vested interest in each party. There's a lot of money um, at play. There's a lot of money to be had and to be lost, and I mean a lot of money, depending on who gets into office, right? So it is something that is the incentive. The incentive to manipulate elections is there. You know, not just financially, but culturally speaking, right? Um, People think they're being, you know, renaissance, revolutionaries and saving their country or uh, advancing, progressing their country or whatever they're doing. Like it means a lot to a lot of people, financially, culturally, psychologically, spiritually, all that stuff. Um, so you could see um, the potential for cheating and for hacking and different stuff like that if we did go to a all digital system. Um, Voter identification should be required. Again, this one is something to me, it makes absolutely zero sense. Okay, like I can lay out their argument, but it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Those who don't want to require voter ID. So on the one hand, you require ID for almost anything in this country, for a job, for like anything important, like for jobs, for taxes, for uh, or more for alcohol, like um applications to different things. Like there are so many things that require an ID in this country. Like you can't operate really for housing. Like you can't operate in this country without an ID, right? But some want to take away voter ID. Um, their argument would be uh, and it's silly on so many ways. Like the argument that they try to make sometimes on the left is that voter ID is racist, right? Because there are many impoverished people, and these impoverished people don't have the internet or the ability to access IDs and things like that. And like it's I mean, so what are they assuming about these individuals? Like that's a slap in the face to them, right? First of all, they're assuming that the impoverished people are like mostly black. And whether or not that's true, that's an that's more of a racist assumption than assuming that everybody can and should have an ID, right? But then again, the people proposing this are the same type of people who claim that the entire system uh, is racist. and stuff like that. And it's just it's ridiculousness. It's absolute ridiculousness. Like if we're being logical, which, you know, some of the radicals will tell you that logic itself is racist, right? Everything's racist, right? I remember the Smithsonian, one of these museums, one of these big museums, they put out a list like being on time is racist, like, uh, using proper punctuation is racist, like all these different things. And so that's where voter ID comes into. Um, no, the only reason that you would want no voter ID, uh, no, I mean, if you buy that as an excuse, you can buy that as an excuse, like, oh, it's racist photo ID. That's BS. That's not the reason that they don't want photo ID. The reason that they want photo ID is no photo ID is to increase the chances of cheating. Um, just logically speaking, there's no other connection that makes sense in that scenario. I think voter ID is the most uh, like basic, square one, like common sense desire, right? I don't, other than, like I said, other than people being like radical, hate everything about the country, hate everything about the system, like just thinking in like this weird fucking Marxist, like, eh, weird ass view, like there's no reason not to have it. Like I can't believe that this is even a discussion, right? Like I can't believe that it's even uh and like we've said, we've seen places that not only don't require photo ID for voting, like will penalize stations that ask for it, and it's just there's no other explanation other than uh, I mean their explanation doesn't add up, and it's got to be nefarious if you're not buying into their explanation, which makes no sense. Um, Vote counting should have nonpartisan oversight, right? There should be much scrutiny. There should be much oversight on vote counting. The people who are separating the ballots into the separate bins, which they often do, you'll have these ballot counting centers, and you'll see dozens of people. They each get their a pile of ballots, and they look and they go, okay, Republican candidate, Democrat candidate, Republican candidate, Democrat candidate, and they need to have oversight, right? They need to have somebody behind them looking over their shoulder, making sure they're not just like slipping them into the wrong basket, or doing pulling out baskets from like under the shelf, or pulling out baskets from their armpits, or fucking changing the shit or whatever they're doing, right? There should be plenty of uh, counting watchers. Um, People convicted of felonies should regain voting rights after fully serving their sentence and returning to society as free citizens. So once you do the crime, you do the time. But once you're out of jail, you should be able to vote again, right? I don't think you should be able to vote from within jail, but you should be able to vote once your time has been served and you're deemed appropriate to return uh, to society. And in a further episode, we'll talk about what our stance is on jails and prisons and stuff like that. Um, the electoral college should remain. We should not go by popular vote. I like the electoral college. Um, we should not go by popular vote. I don't think majority rule is a true democracy. Um, 51 to 49 is not does not seem fair. I like the electoral college. 51 to 49 does not seem fair to the 49. I like the electoral college because it's based on population density. It's based on population of states. Um, each state has a certain amount of electors, and um, I think that's the more fair way to do it. Um, and in that same breath, ranked choice voting should not be used. Elections should remain based on one voter choosing one candidate. Okay. Um, so so that's that. That's elections. Um, that's 32, and we can actually extend it a little bit. And I'll read through the public office and term limits. Um, Maybe I'll even read through primaries and political parties, and then I'll go campaign finance as well. Um, and these I'm going to do a little bit less explaining and a little bit more reading, just through the points here. So public office and term limits. It says, we say, all local, state, and federal public office holders should have been born in the United States, and that's going to be a controversial one. But I mean, if you're doing public service for this country, the best way to ensure that you have this country's the best intentions for this country is to make sure is to make sure um you're from this country, and that just is what it is. um it's people can swear oaths and they can agree to be for this country's best interest. But I think that opens up the door um, for enemy nations to send individuals to specifically destroy our country from within. And I don't think that, and that's not saying that every foreigner would want to do that. A lot of foreigners, they do love the country that they migrate to. This one, but you just prevent that potential by strictly keeping it limited to those born. within the states. I mean, it's that way for the presidency, right? You cannot be born outside of this country and run for president. You cannot be born outside of this country and work for NASA. Um, and so I think it should be the same across the board as far as politicians are concerned. Members of the House should be limited to 3-year terms, to 3 terms or 6 years. So House members should be limited to 3 terms or 6 years. Senators should be limited to 2 terms or 12 years because the senator term is 12 and the House terms are 2. It's just we don't want situations where um, you get lifetime, you get people lifetime in that position, and uh, just over and over and over again, and then next thing you know, um, this is how we get a House and Senate full of 80 and 90 year olds. Not that there's anything wrong with 80 and 90 year olds, um, but sometimes you want uh, individuals who have a better pulse on the culture and the vibe of a nation, right? Presidents should remain limited to 2 terms or 8 years. There should be no additional maximum age restriction for elected office. So, as I was just saying um, in my last bullet point that having these term limits prevents you from having a Senate full of 80 and 90 year olds. But with that being said, if you are an 80 or 90 year old, that shouldn't prevent you from running or being elected either. You know what I mean? Um, Existing constitutional minimum age requirements may remain. Um, you got to obviously be an adult. Voters should decide whether a candidate is too old to serve, right? That goes to there being no maximum age restriction. We get into primaries and political parties. Um, Registered party members should vote in their own party's primary. Um, some of these things are like conserving, like are the way that they have been. Some of these things are not changes at all. It's just same old, different day. But registered party members should vote in their own party's primary. Independent voters should be permitted to vote in both major party primaries. So if you're an independent, you should be able to vote for a Democrat and a Republican candidate in the primaries. Um, Also, here's a big one: a viable centrist third party should exist. This two-party system is, uh, to me, it's outdated. The fact that no third party can gain entry. I mean, there are third parties, but they can never gain the traction that they need to compete with these humongous institutions. Um, this centrist third party should not have to overcome excessive barriers simply to participate. They should be allowed on the debate stage. They should have, and we're going to get into campaign finance, but they should have the finances available to them as well. Um, and it should be a bipartisan decision to consciously uh, adopt a third party, right? A centrist party. Um, right? Its existence should be enough for inclusion in the political process and debates. So on to campaign finance. It says every candidate should face the same overall spending cap. Okay. Um, the cap, so you can't just like spend $1 billion because you earned $1 billion, whereas the other candidate or um, the other party's candidate only spends 1.2. Like that's often a factor when they're showing uh, a breakdown of two candidates. They're like, oh, this candidate raised 3 million, but this candidate raised 13 million. And if we're trying to live in a meritocracy and we're trying to have uh, the most fair elections possible, there should be a cap. There should be a cap that neither party can exceed. This cap should include direct donations. This cap should include the candidate's personal wealth. The cap should include party spending. The cap should include PAC spending. Um, and the cap should include outside advertising intended to support the candidate. Um, Qualifying candidates may receive the same public starting fund. So just simply by running, you get a minimum fund for your campaign, and then everything else, um, everything else builds up to the cap. So let's say each candidate gets $100,000 to start, for example, and they're both capped at 500,000. Um, Public starting funds should count toward the overall spending cap, right? So if you're capped at 5,000, 500,000, the original 100,000 that you received to start your campaign counts towards that 500,000. So you can only raise an additional 400,000 or contribute yourself an additional 400,000. Um, So basically, all in all, what that says is what I said, which is elections should uh, reward allocation, labor, organization, most importantly, message and merit rather than access to wealthy donors, right? So we want the most capable. We want the person whose policies are agreed with the most. Okay. And so that's elections, that's public office and term limits, and that's primaries and political parties, and that's also campaign finance that we went over today. Um, Next episode, we can go over um, taxation, and we can go over foreign policy. Okay, then after that, the following week, we'll go over religion and government, and we'll go over government ethics, et cetera, et cetera. Um, then we also got later on, we got criminal justice, we got policing, prison, criminal justice and prisons, we got policing, we got gun rights. So we got free speech, we got a lot of different things to touch on. So to kind of switch gears from what I believe was important stuff, serious stuff. Uh, we're gonna we're gonna do real quick. We're gonna talk about uh, a little bit of maybe funny, maybe kind of silly. You know, I read that there was a parasite that was causing a diarrhea epidemic throughout the nation. Um, and so, with that, with the spirit of diarrhea in mind, um, very eclectic, very eclectic here. You know, we do serious stuff, we do poopy stuff. With the spirit of diarrhea in mind, um, serious stuff, silly stuff. We're gonna do a quick 5 question Q&A. We're gonna do a 5 question Q&A. Not a Q and A. I'm sorry. Would you rather? Based on the theme of poop and diarrhea. Okay. So the first one, it says, would you rather have to use a, and I haven't seen these yet. I haven't filtered them. I said, give me five. I'm going to go through the five. If they're stupid, I'll say they're stupid. Some may argue that they're stupid by default because they're talking about poop. But hey, I was going to say, everybody loves a good poop joke. But it says, would you rather have to use a filthy public toilet while experiencing severe explosive diarrhea, or have a complete stranger with explosive diarrhea use your personal toilet at home? Okay. So I don't know about you guys. You guys can put your answers 1 through 5 in the comments if you'd like. For me, I would rather use a filthy public toilet and do some explosive diarrhea. You know, there are some mitigating techniques that you can use. You can cover your nose, you can cover the toilet with like some paper towels and stuff like that. There's no mitigating factor, there's no mitigating intervention that you can use for having a complete stranger fucking shitting in your house. I don't want a complete stranger in my house, period. Never mind fucking dropping a massive like diarrhea explosion. No thank you. Um, would you rather get a sudden bout of uncontrollable diarrhea every time you meet with your boss, or every time you meet your partner's parents? Huh. Well, I mean, I guess that would depend on where I am in life. If and when this company, this brand, ever starts making me fuck you money, I won't have a boss, so I'd be able to pick that one. Also, if and when I ever find a life partner um, that is suitable and meets my expectations, and I meet her expectations um, in today's day and age. Um, if and when that happens, I'd like to not necessarily be involved that much with their parents. You know, I mean, I'm already 36, so, you know, if this happens in another 5, 6 years, their parents might be pretty freaking old. But so let's say all things. Let's say you can't take that route out. Um, it's tough. Maybe your partner's parents, because then you can kind of set that expectation. You could be like, yeah, my partner has a lot of diarrhea, and your face seems to trigger it. No, not that, but I mean, if you diarrhea yourself at work, I mean, either way, you bring change of clothes or whatever. Um, it's tough. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. You kind of because that would kind of just prevent you from meeting with either of them, right? And so I don't know. Does your partner, do their parents, do your bosses understand? Like, do these people understand that they're the trigger for your uncontrollable diarrhea? Um, or do they not get that? Because you can't really meet with either of them. Like, you can't ever really. It's just gonna be like a vicious cycle. Like you see them, you run away. And like if you did that to your boss, you sat in your boss's office and then you had an attack and you ran away, they're gonna want to still talk to you afterwards about what they had to talk to you about, you know. Um, would you rather smell like poop all the time without being able to smell it yourself, or have your significant other smell like poop and you have to smell it constantly? Well, I mean, if I still have a significant other, then I'd rather smell it, be the poop myself and not smell it. Like I wouldn't want my woman to smell like poop, you know. And I mean when I say my woman, I mean that in the most endearing way possible, not in the possessive way. Um, she's my woman, I'm her man. That's it just works both like that. Um, but yeah, no, I'd prefer her not to smell like like poop, like shit. So, um, but she's not gonna stay with you. They're not gonna stay with you long, probably. Would you rather eat only insects for the rest of your life while maintaining normal digestion, or eat your favorite foods normally but have constant diarrhea? That's a shitty situation now, ain't it? Now, ain't it? You know, I love foods, man. I love me some good foods, but you know, The Lion King made insects look pretty yummy, and a lot of people eat insects and stuff like that. Um, but I'd probably go with the normal food and just like start running a lot to the bathroom. Would you rather suffer through 48 hours of continuous nonstop diarrhea or be severely constipated and unable to poop for 3 straight weeks? It depends. Like, I mean, if I can get a couple days off, you know, I'll fucking shit all day for 2 days in a row. I'll be like Lil Wayne, you know. I forget how many bathrooms he says he has in that song. It's like got 10 bathrooms I can shit all day, or got 9 bathrooms I can shit all day, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I'd do that instead. So yeah, leave your shitty comments in the comment section. Make sure to check out all my other stuff. Check out my website, thewayofecudez.com. Check out my Instagram, ecudez17. Um, on my website, you'll find a free to use philosophy forum. You'll find a blog. You'll find essays. Um, and then you'll find my kicks, our kicks, and you'll find books that I've written as well. So tune in, check those things out. Tune in next week for some more content and anything in between. And safety and peace to all of y'all. Goodbye.